sunset on the lake, mockingbirds and blue jays, ducks, ibises, and the Tequesta. Look how quiet it is out here. Now I'm surrounded by houses, fancy $1 million houses. But I was thinking the other day about when I first moved here and came to Coral Springs, 1990. The entire city area of Parkland essentially was bean patches, cabbage, farmland, gravel roads. Basically, it was just Pine Island or Coral Springs Drive is Pine Island here. If you don't know, in Broward County, two major parallel roads running north-south is Nob Hill and Pine Island. And I don't know what hill Nob Hill is named after, but Pine Island is named after the Pine Island Ridge. I have to do a video on that sometime. That's a pretty neat place to visit. Speaking of Indians. Door County Coffee. I believe this is Jamaican Me Crazy. Good coffee from Wisconsin. So like I said, I was thinking about when I first moved here and how Parkland, all these homes were just bean patch farmland. I took a picture of it once back when I was kind of in photography. I was probably 20. Drove out here one time and I took a photograph of the rows of beans, or I think it was bean patches or something. I don't know why I always think those are bean patches. Maybe because Bud Lyons, who owned a lot of this land, was known as the Titan of the Bean Patch. That was his nickname. So maybe that's why I think of it as bean patches. But this area here was owned by a family called Beatty Farms. And back when I was working at auto parts delivery, I used to deliver auto parts out to their farm sometimes. Miss Beatty was always real nice. Give me a glass of lemonade. Eventually, they sold everything off. They've developed all these mega millions neighborhoods. But I got the idea to go look on Google Street View, because Google Street View lets you go back in time and see more dates. And it went back as far as 2008, I think, which is really when they began to develop and carve out these houses, and even this lake didn't exist at the time, which is interesting to think about. This little plot of land, however big this is not the full extent of what the Tequesta lived on, because you can tell from, you ever seen that time-lapse satellite view page where you can go back as far as about 1984 and see the time-lapse of the satellite view? If you look at this plot of square of land here, before about 2008, it was all contiguous. There was a giant plot of farmland here. This lake that surrounds the archaeological site, they dug that like in 2007. Before that, it was just one big plot of farmland, and this was being farmed. Remember, it was discovered in the 40s by a farmer, Mr. Blount, of Blount Road fame over in Margate, right? I'm not going to go into that. Go watch my video on this site. Talks about its discovery and where the bones of the Tequesta are now. I hope they're there. I hope the Seminole who took possession of the Tequesta bones, the Seminole didn't live here originally. The Seminoles are relatively newcomers to South Florida. In fact, white people were here before Seminoles. But the Tequesta were here, and the Seminoles are their inheritors, having moved into this area. They're the Native American, if not descendants, they're the modern stewards of the native lands. They took possession of the bones, and it was their charge to take care of and reinter the bones of the Tequesta that were found here. I hope they did, but they don't really tell us. They don't really tell outsiders what they're up to and what they're doing. I get it, it's private. I would like to think that the Tequesta who were found here have been returned to this ground. If they have not yet been, then I know that is in the plans. So someday. So I was looking at Google Street View and the history, and I can see back in 2008 when they were developing this and they first leveled the farmland and started to scrape it down to build the homes, this did not have this fence around it. And the grass was all overgrown, the brush was overgrown, these same trees were here. They haven't torn down these ancient trees, which is great. They were still here, but the land was all rocky and overgrown with bush and brush. And because it had been known to be an archaeological site since the 40s, they didn't develop this area, they preserved it, and they put this wooden fence up.